welcome to you all. Greatly appreciate you all being here today. A special welcome to Warren Saunders, our founder, and to Lynn Hall, our chairperson, for being here today. It's great to have you here. Now, some other special mentions. I will mention the Chatswood team, who've travelled 3 hours this morning to be here. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. And I make mention of Yotta, who's only been here for 4 days. 5 days, a week. Yeah. Welcome, Yotta. Okay, what's today about? Today's an opportunity for us to discuss our vision for the strategy of our company for the next 5 years, and we've aptly titled that Good to Great. Now, I think Good to Great is a title that aptly suits Warren Saunders at the moment. The way I see it, any company that's been around for 57 years must be doing something right. However, we certainly can't rest on our laurels. Throughout that 57 years, we've had a wonderful team of people that have been the cornerstone of our longevity and our success. So obviously, we want to continue that. In the words of Steve Jobs, great things in business are not done by one person, they're done by a team of people. And we particularly are certainly part of that process. We've had a wonderful group of people over our entire history. As I said, we can't rest on our laurels. We need to keep evolving and progressing to remain a successful company. All the way along, though, maintaining a wonderful team like you. In the last couple of months, we have obtained some intel from you as to where you see our strengths, our weaknesses, our opportunities and threats. And we've taken that information very, very seriously when we put together our strategy for the company. Our growth plans, as you'll see in a little while, are very aggressive. However, I think they're exciting as we transition from good to great. But at the start, we're going to have an interview with Warren and Lynn. We'll learn a little bit about the history of WSIB, which will certainly have some incentives for the future as well.
Words of the great Warren Buffett, and I think a lot of who have worked with the company for a long time would relate to this. It says, we are all sitting in the shade because someone planted a tree a long time ago. The company's just nearly 57 years. Take us back to the start, unless obviously it was a lot different, just to give people a bit of insight.
The company itself was formed in 1961, became Warren Saunders Insurance Brokers in 1961. But just give you a quick summary of the earlier days to that. It's a long while ago, I know, but I left school in 1951 and I got a job at the London Assurance, which became part of the Sun Alliance Group. And I loved it. I loved it right from the start. Worked with some nice people and I learned a lot. I did have a bit of difficulty because I was playing cricket at the time and I made the New South Wales team and I had trouble getting time off from the London Assurance. So an old-time cricketer called Arthur Morris, he's an old international, I was telling him one day about the troubles I was having getting time off. He said, how would you like to sell cars? I said, I don't know anything about cars. He said, either do I, but he said, they're not hard to sell. They were Holdens, the early days of Holdens. Anyway, I did that for 2 years and hated it. I hated the car industry. I know from time to time you hear stories about insurance people flirting with the truth. Well, I'll tell you what, if you think insurance people flirted with the truth, you ought to try the car game. It was a shocker. But anyway, then I lasted for 2 years. I couldn't stand any longer and I wanted to get back into the industry. And I got a job with the Norwich Union selling life assurance. And at the same time, as you could do in those days, I took an agency with the London Assurance and I was also built up a bit of a general connection. And that went on, well that was 58 I did that. And after 3 years it was starting to go pretty well and I wanted to just sort of start a business on my own. And I did have a little bit of luck, it was going well, but I had to go into the NRMA in Hurstville. They were in Ormond Parade in those days. And I had to get a valuation on a car that I was buying from the Norwich Union as I was leaving them. And the manager of the NRMA was sitting over in the corner and he recognised me from cricket and he called me over and he said, what can I do for you? And I told him I wanted the valuation on the car. He said, I'll get that fixed. He said, come over the road, Hurstville RSL was straight opposite. He said, come over the road and we'll have a beer. Well, he asked me what I was doing and I told him. He said, oh look, he said, we get a lot of queries about insurance that we can't handle. He said, would you be interested in me passing the names on to you? I said, would I be interested in you doing that? And of course he did, and that coupled with what I was doing myself, building it up, this was an enormous benefit to me, because in those days, personal lines was a big part of the business. I know now we've veered right away from it, understandably. So that built up very quickly, and then there was another a fellow called Jim Gillen, who was connected with the London Assurance, and he wanted to go out on his own, so we both went out on our own. We were given an office in the London Assurance building, and we shared a girl. We couldn't afford, either of us couldn't afford to pay a girl full time, so we shared the girl. Anyway, I built the business up a fair bit quicker than Jim did, and mainly because I was working and he wasn't. And then I I employed the girl, and then she worked for me for some years, and then I employed Neil Marks about 1966, I think, and then the girl that I had employed said she had to leave. She was moving to Canberra, but she said, I've got a girl you should talk to. And guess who that was? LH. Still here. That was in 1967, and she'd been 50 years last September, so that's not bad. We're very proud.
The team has obviously grown over a long period of time. How important is teamwork in that entire period?
Oh, absolutely. Teamwork's absolutely vital. Okay, at very, very early days it was small, but as we gradually grew, and then we moved from the city out to Hurstville, and we saw Helen Morris up there before. She was working for us, and actually it was her mother's house that I bought at Hurstville to convert into an office all those years ago. And the teamwork is vital. I mean, I think about putting it simply about businesses, as it grows, I mean, the key is to get good people around you. It really is. And we have that. Obviously, we've had that for a long, long while. But that was very important. And I started with a very good one in 1967. And it went from there. And teamwork's so vital. They become, as Lynn just said, they become your friends, almost feel part of your family. It's an old saying that I used to use many times, is that I used to hope that come Monday morning, people that work for our organisation look forward to going to work to catch up with their friends. And I like to think that still applies. It does get harder as the place gets bigger, but I think it's very important, and teamwork is just absolutely vital.
Customer service, I know you've been a real strong advocate of customer service. If the phone rang more than 4 times and no one had answered. Also, you've given me a number of tips over the years of getting out to how to get in front of clients, as far as when they're trying to not want to see you, and some tips in that regard. But how important has that been with the development of the business over the years? Your attitude to customer service.
Oh, very important. You learn early on that you've got to take some knockbacks, and that's hard for a while. Hard to take knockbacks. But you just have to do it. It's a very important part of it. There's a couple of things that come to my mind that I've learned over the years that I think are worth repeating. One is that a fellow said to me many, many years ago, I was at the counter. I can tell you what had happened. I was working at the London Assurance on the counter, and in those days, brokers used to come around to the office and get cover notes extended. Those days are long, long gone. But they used to use retired fellas to come and do it, blokes that had been in business and wanted to still keep working. Chap said to me one day at the counter, young Warren, he said, I want to tell you something. He said, the sweetest sound to a person's ears is his own name. And I've never forgotten that. And all of you think about it. You like being called by your name. And it's not hard. You've got to work on it sometimes, but it's so important. The sweetest sound to a person's ears is his own name. And another thing that I learned very early on was be a good listener. It's so important to be a good listener, and a lot of people are not, but it's just so vital to get to know a bit about people and to get out and see people I've often used the saying that if you were going out and you wanted to see someone and you didn't particularly want to make, it was difficult to get to them, I used to ring and say, look, I'll be out your way at Campsie tomorrow, and I wondered if I could just call in and say good day and have a cup of tea. And it's amazing how that sort of thing can break down barriers. It sounds simple, and it probably is, but I found that very important to get out there, and from that I got a lot of referred leads as the years went by.
What do you think of the cornerstones, have been the cornerstones of our culture over all those years, and how we've, in other words, I guess I'm trying to think a message for the business going forward. We don't want to lose touch with some of those important culture items. Have you got some thoughts on that?
Culture, Mars, is very hard to explain, and we always say that we've got a good culture. The culture in this place has developed over the years from this man here. He had that team spirit because he was involved in a team sport, which helps you along the way, I think, not being an individual. And I think the culture that was developed was that we respected everybody that we worked with, we respected the insurers that we dealt with, and we certainly respected our clients. We worked hard, we had a lot of fun, and we still continue to work hard, and we still continue to have a lot of fun. And we enjoyed coming to work. Well, we certainly enjoyed coming to work, and I'm sure that people here enjoy coming to work because it's a great work environment we've provided over the years, both physically and personally. I think we've been very honest in everything we've done. We've developed a great integrity through the organisation, and that is, we don't tell the insurers lies, we don't tell our customers something that we can't do. And I think that's been there. And I think another thing in our industry too, insurance is common sense, and I think that's something that we've developed as well. And we do get the best out of everybody, and that's a big thing that management need to continue, is to get the best out of what we've got. And you've what we've got, and you're a great team.
In your time at WSIB, there's obviously been a lot of changes made. What would you say are the most positive changes?
I think the move to Hurstville was a big positive move. As Warren said earlier, we had 3 desks in the Saunders building in town, and then once we moved to Hurstville, we had an exposure. We had our name up in lights. People knew what he was doing, that he was an insurance broker, and the business seemed to flow through the door. I think the same thing should apply at Kirrawee now. We've got a magnificent building there. We've got a lot of exposure. People in, can I mention it, the Shire, should know we're there, and we should be out getting the business that we can from that exposure that we've got. I think that was a great move. The other good move that we made years ago was when Neil decided to retire. We didn't think we could fund his retirement, so we got the Sunlighters involved, and they became a partner. And they turned us into being a very, very professional company. And I think that was a big part of our development. Eventually we bought them out again, so that was a good thing. So we're back to being this great family company that we've got. The other positive thing, of course, is employing great people, and we've had some really good ones. If I hadn't talked John Saunders into coming and working for us, he didn't want to initially. I don't think we'd be here today. We probably may have sold the business because we may not have had someone to continue the progression of the company. Spiro Stathicus was a great acquisition, Spiz. I know that he's going into retirement himself, but the business that Spiro put on the books, particularly the club industry, which is an area which won't die. The clients that we've got on our books now are ageing, and we will lose them. And the clients that Warren and I had on the books 40 years ago, there would hardly be anyone left except perhaps Brian James, perhaps. So the clients age. So Spiz introduced that great lead that we got into. Well, he didn't introduce the club, Warren did initially, but Spiro reversed that. But we've had some great people work for us, and we've got to continue to do that.
In your opinion, over a long period of time, what are the 3 or 4 crucial behaviours that you rate as critical to developing business?
I mentioned before, being a good listener, being active, being things like punctuality. If you make an appointment to see somebody at 10 o'clock, you need to be there a little earlier to prepare yourself. I think that's important. I think there's one word that sums up a lot of business ability, and that's enthusiasm. I think enthusiasm is so important. And another old saying that I gave me years ago was, we act as though luxury and comfort are the chief requirements of life, when all we need to make us really happy is something to be enthusiastic about. And if you think about that, that's true. If you're enthusiastic about something, generally you're quite happy. It really gets you going. And that probably sums up a lot of it, John, really. And just the normal enthusiasm, integrity, of course, honesty, good relationships with insurance companies as well as your clients, and they're all important.
Yeah. We see technology is playing a major role in our business going forward, as it does in every business. The new term InsurTech suggests we need to be ahead of the curve. You've played a major role with our broking systems in our industry. What are your thoughts on this subject going forward?
The push seems to be, I mean, you've got to keep up with it, of course, but the push seems to be that we need a broking system that's web-based. Now, that was being mooted when I was still working actively. So it's taken them a long while to get something decent off the ground. And I think that would still take a long while, because developing a broking system is not easy. We were very much in the forefront of developing what is now known as the Broker Plus system, along with Peter King from Transwest. And it takes a lot of time. So my feeling about it is, don't get into the development of a broking system. Get someone else to do the work and keep out of it, because it's so time consuming. It's a very hard system to put together, because there's so many facets of it that you need. I mean, I don't think it's like having an invoicing system. There's more to it than that. It's got to be client related and customer focused and all that sort of thing. And I just, we still have to keep up with it. We've still got to be, I don't know whether you can be ahead of the game, but you've got to keep up with it. You've got to keep your staff, you've got a young staff now. They like this technology stuff. They like the new stuff. So, you've got to keep them with the new mobile phones, and then you've got to keep them up to date with their screens and all that sort of stuff. You've got to do that, because that's what they are. But don't rush into it if you've got to change the system, and I believe that could be happening at some stage, and it will happen because Broker Plus is old. But it works. The platform there is work. It does work.
Today's all about future growth, and we're all funny animals like that. We don't like things to change too much. We like things to sort of be as we know them. But unfortunately, we've always got to have an eye to growth and development. And I guess my question to you is, I'm sure this has always been the way. You've always had your eye on growth and the business, taking it forward. So it's not a new concept. I guess that's what my question is, to say, give us a bit of history look at growth in the business.
Yeah, definitely. Nothing changes. Nothing changes. If we don't grow, we die. It's been the same for 50 years. You've got to keep generating new business. Now that new business could be new clients. It can be upselling people. It can be retaining business. How much business do we lose because we've done something wrong? I know there are things that businesses sell out and you've got no control over it. But we do lose some business because we haven't done something right. We need to be proactive, not reactive. I think that's a big key to it. Don't wait for the client to ring you. You ring them. Go out and see them. Get close to them. You've got to retain the business as well as getting the new business. I think the exposure that we have, the exposure that we have here at Kirrawee is wonderful. There must be so many businesses out there that are nowhere near now, and we should be trying to get them on board. And that was no different. We used to go and knock on doors down in Penshurst, Norman Street, Penshurst. Yeah, you know, we went and knocked on doors. So you've got to do that, otherwise the business doesn't grow. We don't have a company. You know, we've got to get the money to pay you guys and be here for, I don't know, John, another 50 odd years. That could happen, but who knows? Well, you know, you can also, we've done a few acquisitions over the time. A few of them have been bits of, well, I wouldn't say duds, but we've got good business out of them, and a good example is Tony with
The last one's the best one.
Yes, the Warren says the last one's the best one with Becky and Wilkinson, and Tony
Very good.
and does a wonderful job over there. And I believe Tony's a terrific business getter. I hope he's going to tell us how he does it.
At some stage.
At some stage.
Can I just add to that, as far as Lynn was talking about the acquisitions we've made, the first one was a classic. There was a fellow in the city called Jack Owen, lovely man Jack, and Jack and his girl just ran a nice business. He had a good book of clients, and he rang me up one day and he said, mate, I know you better than I do anyone else in the industry. He said, I've had enough insurance. He said, would you be interested in buying me out? I said, I don't know, Jack, we better go and have a bit of a talk about it. So, Lynn and I went in to see him. What year would that have been?
Yeah, good question.
Yeah.
1970s.
70s, yeah. Well, we're reversible. We're reversible then. Anyway, we went in and we met Jack and his secretary, Marion, and we discussed the business. We shook hands after about half an hour, I suppose, that we'd do it. He wasn't greedy and we weren't greedy. We came to a good settlement, and he said, right, let's go and have lunch. So that's good, Jack, yeah. So he just took the phones off the hook. And we went to lunch and we were out for about 3 hours. And I said, Jack, you can't do that. He said, we do it every day. I thought it was a classic. Then after Jack there was one race, that wasn't a great one. And the next one was, nice people. The Williamsons at Oakley was a small brokerage, but nice people. And they all worked out pretty well overall. We retained most of the business. Yeah.
Big round of applause for Warren.